5 years have passed, 5 summers with the length of 5 long winters. And again I hear these waters rolling from their mountain springs with a soft inland murmur. So, right, plain, obvious, no big words going on here, guys. What do we know? 5 years have passed. So we know what day it is, right, in the year now. So this lets us know. So 5 years before was what? 1793, right? So as we talked about before, this is the revisit. So this was the visit. Once again do I behold these steep and lofty cliffs, which on a wild, secluded scene impress thoughts of more deep seclusion and connect the landscape with the quiet of the sky. Notice there in line 7, thoughts of more deep seclusion, right? With Romanticism, we're moving away from the social group, from collectivism, and we're lifting up the individual. We're moving away from society to the individual. See that happening here. Seclusion, deep seclusion. And what happens when we're away from society, right? Thoughts of more deep seclusion. We're able to clear our minds, right? We're able to start moving towards reaching the sublime transcendence. The day has come when I again, notice that again, visit, I again repose here under this dark sycamore and view these plots of cottage ground, these orchard tufts, which at this season with their unripe fruits among the woods and copses lose themselves, nor with the green and simple hue disturb the wild green landscape. Once again I see these hedgerows, hardly hedgerows, little lines. So what Wordsworth is doing, right, is he's just looking out over the landscape. We talked before about memory and reflection, and that's starting to happen. He's slowly starting to ease into this. Line 24. These forms of beauty, though long absent, have not been to me as is a landscape to a blind man's eyes. Right? A blind man can't see. So Wordsworth is telling us, right? Even though he hasn't been here in 5 years, these forms of beauty have not been to me as is a landscape to a blind man's eye. So in other words, Wordsworth is able to see things. Not just, the physical part of seeing, but pulling them in to make them part of himself. But oft, in lonely rooms and amid the din of towns and cities, I have owed to them in hours of weariness sensation sweet. So we get a clue here. What had happened in these 5 years? What had happened? The din, the noise of what? Towns and cities. So Wordsworth was here, right? 5 years later, he comes back. During these 5 years, where was he? He was living in the city, living in the town. It was noisy. Right now, so listen to this. I have owed to them a debt, right? I owed to them in hours of weariness, right? When he was here. Sensations sweet, felt in the blood and felt along the heart. So he's looking out over the landscape, right? And it's triggering reflections and memories of what's happened. He realized that when he was here, right, in 1793, then he went to go live in the cloudy, polluted, loud, crowded city. He was able to pull up those experiences, right? So he was able to think back to that visit. And how did it make him feel? It made him feel physically better. Physically better. And passing even into my pure mind, right? So body, soul, mind, with tranquil restoration. Feelings too of unremembered pleasure, such perhaps as may have had no trivial influence on that best portion of a good man's life. His little, nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and of love. Nor less, I trust, to them I may have owed another gift, right? So that was one gift. Here's another gift of aspect, what? More sublime. Of aspect more sublime. That blessed mood in which the burden of the mystery, in which the heavy and weary weight of all this unintelligible world is lightened. So when Wordsworth was in the city, in the towns, and he was just didn't like it, what was he able to do? Through memory, right? He was able to escape. He was able to transcend that and travel back to that first visit and then recapture that aspect sublime, the blessed mood, that serene and blessed mood in which the affections gently lead us on until the breath of this corporeal frame, right, the body, and even the motion of our human blood almost suspended, we are laid asleep in body and become a living soul. This is that moment of transcendence where the space-time continuum is stopped and we travel out, while with an eye made quiet by the power of harmony and the deep power of joy, we see into the life of things. So the sublime lets us see things that we miss with the eye. We're able to see and perceive things with the heart. If this be but a vain belief, yet, in other words, I doubt you. What does Wordsworth say? This is not a vain belief. How often darkness, and amid the many shapes of joyless daylight, when the fretful stir unprofitable, the fever of the world have hung upon the beatings of my heart. How often, Spirit, have I turned to thee, O Sylvian way, thou wanderer through the woods, how often has my spirit turned to thee. What does Wordsworth tell us? Right? This didn't just happen once, this escape. This happened many times during the 5 years. When he was having a bad day, when he was tired of his life in the city and the crowd and the din and just feeling lost, he would think back to looking out the serene landscape, the murmur of the water, sublimity, transcendence. It's happening for him.